All right, here with my friend, Professor Hector Beltran.
Yes, sir. Nice
Artist and martial artist.
That's right. Yeah, a little bit of everything. It's funny you actually say that. In high school, I had this teacher that I thought was putting like a pox on me because she said, "Yeah, you do a little bit of everything," and I was like, "Okay, what's that mean?" She said, "Yeah, you're kind of like a jack of all trades." I was like, I kind of knew the saying, and I was like, where's she going with this? She's like, master of none. I knew she was going to finish it. And I was like, okay. I thought that was like totally a pox on me. I'm like, I'm never going to master anything moving forward, but because at that point I was really into music, skateboarding and fine arts, like painting, drawing, like, so looking at all this stuff on the walls right here for those not looking at the video, some cool artwork up on the walls, so that's the kind of stuff I thought I was going to end up doing. Painting, creating, and opening a studio someday to sell my artwork because, at that time there was not really, I was not aware of online marketplaces and all that stuff, but here we are. So now I totally think of myself as an artist, right before a martial artist.
Mm-hmm. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Downey for the most part.
And that's where your gyms are, right? In Downey?
Mm-hmm. So I have 2 locations with my business partner in Downey. We have a downtown Downey location and a North Downey location. They're just 2 miles apart. One is the original location, and then we expanded, found a really nice 3,600 square foot location, and did it all up, made it really nice, and now that's the headquarters location. Nice.
And you guys just like you started, like we were talking about a little bit before, 2018, right?
Correct. Yeah. So that was a crazy time. Right before the the
COVID, and you're like, I don't really count the last couple of years.
Yeah, right. So that's the thing, right? When people ask how long we've been in business, right? It's hard to count the last really year and a half. Not so much. The past 6 months has been pretty good, and that's when we expanded. But obviously, even before that, there was I started looking at different places to expand in February of 2021. So it was still like major heyday. You don't know what variant's going to come out next, what lockdown's going to be imposed next. So I was like, I guess we should expand, but it's a scary time, which ended up working out in our favor because we found a spot that was vacant, and the landlord was just holding on to a place, looking for the right tenant. But we were really aggressive about trying to get in there, but at the same time, patient enough to negotiate a good deal. Which is there's one thing that always stuck in my head that I heard a long time ago during the Great Recession. Right, I heard a person in finance say, "A crisis is a terrible opportunity to waste." So I was like, always thinking about that. I was like, yeah, but in that time I wasn't prepared for anything. I was like 4 years out of high school. I was just a dummy, like a young person. Now I was in a different position, with a little bit of a decent business going. And I was like, okay, well, there's a crisis here. Where's the opportunity?
Right on. What about all the people moving out of California and in LA?
Yeah, I mean, so there's like
that's like the catch, right? They're like, whoa, what do I do?
Right. Well,
and
there's
the next
that
variant,
number.
Right?
There is that
looming.
There is that number, right? Like people say, oh yeah, look at all these people leaving, but I always feel like it's a vacuum because it's at the end of the day, such a desirable location as far as weather. And I'll even give you an example during the first part of the pandemic, right? Everything kind of like shut down in 2020. I was talking to my wife and we had an opportunity to go visit my brother in Seattle. We were just going to go for a couple weeks, right? We left and we ended up really enjoying Washington. We were actually east of Seattle, about 40 minutes. So a little bit in the sticks. It's a nice little town called Duvall, Washington. Where my brother lives, and he had a nice property out there, and we ended up hanging out a couple months, and it was really awesome. We were like, oh, we could get used to this. Until the weather turned. Once it started getting misty, foggy, and rainy, it was about a week, and I'm like, I'm out. I can't hang.
You get like depressed. It's kind of sad, right?
That was the main thing where I was like, it was a combination of not trained jiu-jitsu and my wife was like calling me out where she was saying like, you look different. You're not
sad.
You're sad, you know? And it was like, yeah, well, I don't have
a big old
jiu-jitsu.
smile. You meet Hector, you have a big old smile.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm radiating because I get to live on the mats, you know, it's typical of people that live on the mats, you know, we're like living the dream and all that. And then in that environment, I was like, okay, well, yeah. And I felt bad because I'm like, I'm spending time with my family. I should be happy. But I think at the end of the day, for certain people, you have to pursue something difficult and worthwhile in order for you to really be happy and content, right? If you're just, and I always tell this to my students, if you're just chasing yummy's like chasing sugar. It's great in the moment, but tomorrow, what you consume today, that chocolate cake, whatever that sugary thing was today, doesn't bring you any satisfaction tomorrow. So in that moment, I was like, okay, well, I'm not building anything. I have to build something. I have to go hard. Everything I do, I try to go 100% and 100 miles an hour. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. And it just is what it is. I'm wired that way. So.
You focus, whether it be art. So you were in art school, and
so I was. It's funny.
You were in school.
My senior year of high school, I won a summer art scholarship to Otis College of Art and Design in Westchester. It was like very like uppity, expensive private school. And but then I talked to my family, and they're like, "We're not gonna pay for that." You know, so I was like, okay, I'll go to community college and I'll start pursuing arts, you know, in a cheap art alternative with great professors. So there was this school nearby that had a really good art program, Cypress Community College. And so I started taking art classes there. I was learning, doing a life drawing, like drawing naked people and all this stuff. And very interesting time for sure. You know, I was like, okay, you know, doing charcoal drawings of old ladies. They're like in their 60s and 70s. They were like whoever we could get, right? It was very fascinating.
When I was younger, I'm still like I like art and I like to paint and do those.
Oh,
kinds
really?
Of things. So
Awesome.
I actually did a bunch of art classes, and yeah, it's funny, right?
Dude, that's super awesome. Yeah.
Sometimes you get old ladies, old guys, but also young people too, right? All types of people.
It's like whoever shows up. I guess I don't know how they source these people. It's like, hey, Craigslist, like take off your clothes. You know, you get all sorts of people. But it was just really interesting because in order for me to fulfill some of my credits, I had to take a physical education class, and I saw that kickboxing was offered, so I took a kickboxing class. And within a couple of days, I was doing really well, and I was like, "Hey, I'm actually really good at this stuff."
Days, huh?
Within a couple of days,
you're like, "This is cool."
I was like, "This is awesome. This is a great way to you know, get fit and kind of de-stress, right? You're hitting things." And then I asked the instructor, I was like, hey, where can I find out more about this, get more into this? And he's like, I'm opening up a gym with somebody in like the Anaheim, Stanton area, and you should come down. And I was like, okay. So I swung by. My first day, I was rolling with this purple belt. He was a purple belt under Kleber Luciano, who I later ended up getting my blue belt under. But he had that school. It was called Pacua. It's like an Argentinian martial art. And first day, I was like super gung ho. I was you know, working out all the time and was super fit. And this guy kept like taking my back. He's the owner of the school. Keeps taking my back, like hooks in, standing like rear naked, choking me up against the wall. This felt like, whoa, what is this? Like I never been exposed to anything like this, right? So it's like, and it's classic jiu-jitsu story. You go in there, you get your ass beat, right? And then you're just like, can you teach me that? You know, okay, I'll be back tomorrow. You know, and
blew my mind,
you know, and it's really like one of those super cool classic jiu-jitsu stories. Some people have it where like a kid choked them out, a girl choked them out. For me, it was like this like middle-aged, like a smaller guy, you know, smaller Argentinian guy that was like choking me out and like beating me up, and I'm like this young, super strong guy. So I was like, okay, there's something here, and this is worthy. And
I have to learn this.
Yeah, right. So that was like, and I think that story perpetuates itself in jiu-jitsu every single day, all across the world. You know, so it's just a cool way of looking back at that and looking back, reflecting of how I got here now. You know, so it's super random, you know, but art kind of led to martial arts. So that was real cool.
Nice. And so you were training, then you ended up going to Kleber school after that school?
Right. So I was there for a bit. I was fighting a pancreation. We were doing like these like
where you slap on the ground.
No, so that's like pancreas, right? So pancreation is it's
no Jiu-Jitsu.
Kind of. So it's basically MMA without punches to the face, which is a great way for mixed martial arts to come up, because when you make a mistake, you don't get knocked out, right? You don't get your teeth knocked out and you don't get really hurt. So it's basically a full-on grappling match.
With body shots.
Punches, kicks, knees, elbows, everything to the body. So it's like full MMA, except you can't punch, elbow, kick to the head. You know, so it's a safer alternative, but you know, it's a nice gateway towards MMA, which is something I was thinking about doing later on. I ended up later having one amateur MMA fight that I won. But
undefeated.
Yeah, right. I was like the one and done. No, and well,
we good.
I know, really. You know what's really interesting? I won. I won that, and I broke my nose during that match, and it was so funny because I tell people, yeah, I broke my nose, and they're like, no, like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, I double legged this guy so hard into the cage that I shattered my nose in his chest and up against the cage, and they're like cleaning him up. There's all this blood, and they're like, wait, he's not bleeding, it's that guy. And they're like, look, and then they look at me and I'm just standing there like ready to go. And they fix my nose and I go. But after that, I realized I wasn't super hungry for mixed martial arts. I was like, I'm way more into the jiu-jitsu aspect of it. So I should specialize, you know? So everything in my life just seems to be a kind of like the way I talk, like a tangent where it's just like, okay, I'm doing this, now I'm doing this, now I'm really interested in that. And let me pursue that with everything I got right now. You know, and I'm actually in that kind of modality right now with certain things as well too, which is interesting because people want to always label you. I don't know if you've experienced this, where they just want to label you as, oh, you're the jiu-jitsu guy. Oh, what do you mean you do real estate or you do you're into crypto or you're into something else? You know, they're like, no, you're this. You know, you're in this little circle or bubble. So I'm always looking for that next 10-year worthwhile goal to start being a white belt in right now. You know.
Nice, man. Nice. And so you went to Collaborative School after that?
After that, I went to New Breed
okay, with Johnny
Ramirez. Yeah, Johnny's super awesome. Yeah. I love the people at New Breed. So I got my purple and brown from Johnny Ramirez. And then after that,
so you came up mainly a lot with Johnny.
Yeah, with Johnny. And so one thing that's really important to know, and I'll ask you this because I'm not sure how this, I always want to give credit to the people who are particularly teaching my class, right? So it's very interesting, right? Because you go like, all right, so I definitely got my blue belt my purple belt from Johnny, but then the person that was teaching the majority of my classes was Paul Barbosa, one of his black belts. You know, so I go like, man, like I just owe so much to Paul. And I'm just so appreciative of Paul. So I always really try to say Johnny Ramirez / Paul Barbosa.
Okay.
And how do you feel about that? Because it's just such a...
Yeah, you feel what you feel, right? You spend a lot of time with Paul. So, you know, it's all good. You know, it's all lineage and it's all good, you know.
Yeah,
it's New Breed. You know, New Breed and John. Everybody knows Johnny, right? So,
right.
You know, people don't know Paul so much, so it kind of makes sense to, you know. But it's nice that you get a chance to give him a shout out.
Yeah,
right?
I got to give him because he was just so influential and helping bring me up and develop me that I always feel now, especially as an instructor, where I have other people start influencing my students' game, where I'm like, definitely that person would be awesome for them to get a shout out, because there's some things that
it takes a village, right? It takes a village to you know, bring up a black belt and it's, I mean, no matter who it is, right? I talked to Solo, you know, and it's like, you know, same thing, right? It takes a village. It's not like one, like, totally. Black Gracie, right? Black belt, but, you know, it takes a village. And so it's nice to be able to talk about like all the people that really influenced you and help you move up, right?
So, yeah. And even in that vein, then from after getting my brown from Johnny / Paul Barbosa, I got my black belt from Gustavo Carpio. Started training with him. He was teaching at a school called Connect in Downey. And then as of late in October last year, I got my first degree from Leo Vieira. So I'm under the Checkman umbrella, but I always say I belong to the community because so many people have helped me with my game, and I go to the tournaments, I see everyone, and I'm on good terms with everybody where I could give them a handshake or a hug. And and
I mean, it seems like you would be driving. You're from Downey, right?
Right.
And you're driving everywhere to train with all these guys, right?
Yeah. So that was the thing. I was always,
that's a lot of time
from the beginning. I always invested a lot of time, and some of my decisions to train elsewhere was very logistics based, where it was just like, okay, while driving to Huntington Beach, training with Clebbers, eating up a lot of, like, I was already commuting for work really a lot.
Okay.
And then adding another 45 minutes there, 45 minutes back. And then when I was training with Gustavo, while I was training at Newbury, but then I started training with Gustavo Carpio, cross training. It just ended up being a little bit more of looking for parts of my game to answer questions, and parts of my games I didn't have answers for. And then it just became more about evolution. It's just the main thing is always try to evolve, always try to pursue what could help me be a more well-rounded martial artist. So and one thing that I heard that really snapped me into like that mindset was someone asked me, and I'll ask you this: do you know what the most dangerous guard is?
The most dangerous guard? Yeah. The one you don't know.
Dude, there we go. Exactly.
That's what I'm always studying.
That's it. And it's like,
you always got to stay ahead. Even if you don't do that guard, you still got to know of it and understand it,
Exactly it. So that's all
so you can see it coming, because it's like the punch you don't see coming is the one that knocks you out, right?
That's exactly it. So even now I'm like, God, I got to learn worm guard. I don't want to learn worm guard. I don't want to learn certain.
I don't hate on anything, I'm always open. I'm always ears. Like you showed that, that Bravo choke, it's like, man, it's the one that you don't see coming, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a Bravo choke, but
the setup, the detail, and what's funny about that, and thank you so much for that opportunity to allow me to share that last week. That was super cool, and that is really one of my what, like I told you when I expressed like what I'd be teaching, I said, this is my monster killer. Yeah. This is what allows me to beat people that are way better than me. So it's kind of like, and right, when you train with someone that's better than you, and I know I train with a lot of people that are way better than me, and I shouldn't be beating them. And then sometimes, because of this monster killer move that I have, it's just the one that they don't know, they don't see coming, and it's just
it's just a Bravo choke. Oh, it's just this, but then boom,
exactly.
They can't get out.
Exactly. So, and just like anything stylistically, when you start specializing in any one given move, it creates this scenario where you're always playing in this manner, and they don't ever get to see it because it's not typical. So it's atypical, where they're just like, okay, well, it's just like if you're in a certain sport where everyone's right-handed, right, and now you go against a left-handed person, which even guards, right? Like left-handed people, they'll play guards differently, and they'll present a lot of trouble for you. Even if you're used to people playing guards in a very specific way, when you have someone do that same thing on the other side, right, it'll invert everything.
Like Leo Vieira when he fought Eddie Bravo, right? Everybody's passing the same way, but then what did he do? He studied, he understood, and so he passed to the other side, and then totally neutralized. He had no guard on that side.
Completely. So it's just recognizing those vulnerabilities and all that. But yeah, so that's kind of from inception to now where I've been in my jiu-jitsu journey.
Nice. What when you started teaching jiu-jitsu, like what kept you going? It's been quite a few years, right? You've been teaching and around on the mats, like living on the mats.
Right. So just when I got started, it was more so it was an opportunity. It was an opportunity to start evolving my game, because one of the things that people don't realize, and I now tell people, is if you get an opportunity to teach. It doesn't matter, because it's going to help you get so much better. Like I was like kidding around talking to one of my instructors and saying, hey, you know, like it's so valuable for somebody coming up that you should actually have to pay to teach, because it will help you so much.
It's part of your training, right?
It's part of your training, right?
Yeah.
And
you get better at all the techniques.
My instructor was like, haha, he's but yeah, you're right. He's like, my game has just shot up exponentially since I started teaching.
You know, when you asked me the question about Paul Barboza, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, he you know, it takes a village, right? But like Johnny gave him that opportunity because he built, you know, whatever he built, right?
Right.
And so
it's part of that.
Yeah. So you can't just be like, oh yeah, Paul, you know, it's not Johnny. No. It's like his blood, sweat, and tears, right?
Absolutely.
Old school times, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, grinding, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So
that's why the lineage and, you know, all those things matter.
They definitely do. They definitely do. You know, and it's and
all the way up to the Gracies, you know, like he got his black belt from, you know, Rodrigo Medeiros. Yeah. Carlson Gracie, and you know,
right? Yeah, and I mean, and
you know,
that's the whole thing. Like everybody is instilling these principles and ideals in somebody else, even down to like the way Johnny approaches people, and he's so friendly and
down
the manner and down to earth. That's something that I still try to carry with me and instill in my academy and the culture, you know, because it's so important, you know, to be approachable, to not have this like this persona that people go like, oh, he's just like he's at the top of the hierarchy and you know, he's not jerk. Exactly. You know, I don't think that's a healthy culture. So
because it's intimidating. You're just walking into a martial arts school, right?
Super
getting beat up. Yeah.
So, and that's one thing that whenever people call or walk in, I always give them like right off the bat, like a little kudos. Like I say, hey, kudos for even making it through the door or giving us a call, because I know this step is so intimidating. I remember the first day, you know, walking into a place, you're like, okay, well, is this person going to try to beat me up, or are they going to actually try to show me something? You know, and every single day someone comes in and they pretty much have that exact same question.
There was one of those TikTok or one of those reels, you know, where Jiu-Jitsu back in 1996 versus you saw that? I shared it on my stories because it's so funny to compare it to Jiu-Jitsu in 2022 instructors anyway, you know.
Right.
In 1996, the guy's like a jerk, like don't talk to me, and they train, and he's like, he beats him up and then kicks him away, you know. Like, and then 22-year-old kissing their butt, you know, like.
Now the instructor's letting them armbar them, and it's like, hey, good job, really nice, that was excellent. You know, it's just a whole different thing, and it's you're definitely talking to a different generation, right? So it's really interesting, though.
It is. You know, like I can't help but think about Johnny, and you know, he's a little bit younger than me in the generations, you know, but just the fact that it was Fight Club, you know. Yeah, it was Fight Club, and so it's a different time right now than
totally different
the 90s.
I mean, well, yeah, because I go like if
2000s, early 2000s.
If I put my students through any of the thing that happened to me on my first day, it'd just be a different outcome, right? You'd have a different ratio for conversion is all I'll look at. But I do for the most part, I do, and everyone's going to feel a little bit different about this, but I'll kind of assess where people are at on their first day and be like, all right, for me to help this person to make a change in their life, meaning to sign up for jiu-jitsu or whatever the case is, they might need to really experience it for real, right? In a certain controlled set. Because I wouldn't have signed up, I wouldn't be here today if I didn't get beat up. So that's crazy. If I just think about that, if I would have went to a school.
That's experience, right? Like the know-how, like what does this guy need for me to
100%
get them to get the bug and get
it's context. Right, it's context. Without the context, you just go like, well, and one thing that's actually interesting, if I back up, when I was 16 years old, someone took me to try a jiu-jitsu class, right? And I think it was at United Miss Martial Arts in La Mirada. And I was 16 years old. Someone took me there. I don't know who let me try the class because my parents weren't there to sign the waiver. You know, that's a big no-no for me.
They weren't there, huh?
Yeah, they weren't there. You know, my friend just took me. I was 16 years old, and I was we were like working this certain position. I don't know if from half guard or something. There was this like big middle-aged sweaty bald guy, typical, on top of me, you know, and I was just like, why would I end up here? This was 2002, never seen UFC. Mixed martial arts, UFC or any of that, right? So I had no context. So now I always think about I thought that was so lame. That was the lamest class I was ever in.
Because you could have been doing it since you were 16, right?
Yeah, right. But
if you understood the context.
If I understood the context, right? Where I was just like, at the end, there's no sparring and no anything, which is good because I don't know anything, right? But it just makes me now in my position, make sure to try to express the context.
Correct.
You know, not make any assumptions, because some people, they might have a frame of reference for combat sports. Some people may not. You know, so you have to be a good communicator for them to understand, okay, well, this is why you might end up here. And still we don't get it right all the time.
And we're so lucky with UFC being like a mainstream sport now, right? Because pre-2007, you know, even, you know, like nobody knew what Jiu-Jitsu was. It was like underground, right?
Right. It's a whole different time.
So you had to, you know, I don't know if you ever saw the video Gracie in Action.
Is that where they do all the the dojo storming challenges?
Correct. Yeah, they challenge different martial arts. Right. You know? And so we were giving out VHS tapes when I first started, just to kind of give context, right?
Yeah.
Of how this works. Why do I have my legs around you? Why, you know, because people come inside the gym and, you know, they're like heavy breathing and one person has their legs around each other. You're like, what is this about, right? They're used to karate and taekwondo, like striking martial arts. So yeah, just to give them context. The context is everything. Right, yeah. It's completely everything. So yeah, that's just one thing that I try to express. Sometimes, I mean, I get it wrong sometimes. Or sometimes people don't give me a chance. I had one guy come to class one time. He signed the waiver. He got in the class and everything. And I kid you not, I was like, okay, guys, so we're working from butterfly guard. Now let me show you why we might end up here. And within 5 minutes, I had this guy just go like, just like step off the mat. And I was like, whoa, where are you going? And he's like, this is not what I thought it was. I don't know what I'm doing here. And he just left. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, if you don't have the time, there's only so much you could do, you know, but you can't make everybody happy. But even butterfly guard is like, it is super practical in a street fight. Of course, you know? Yeah, of course. Like you create those. And they're not going to get it in one class or a couple classes. It's a lifestyle, right? 100%. It's the way of life. That's how you get good. And there is like, because we're going over, and I look at every different type of guard as a module or a component of this overall system, right? Where it's just like, okay, well, now we're going over this specific scenario, this next specific scenario. So, but yeah, we don't get it right all the time, but we try our best. Yeah, that's it. Man, tell me about Downey, right? Downey, like, you know, LA is so big and has so many cities, and, you know, how many people, you grew up in Downey, right? Yeah, I grew up in Downey. So how many people live in Downey? So the estimated population is somewhere around, according to the last census, and I go like what's posted on like the city limit site, and it's like 120,000 people, right? But I think it's significantly more than that with multi-generational housing and all sorts of different things going on, and changes in the demographic. But I think it's roughly probably at least 20,000 above that, maybe like 140,000. But the thing that's really interesting about Downey is and this will sound like I'm pitching something, but it's really centrally located. And I don't work for the city of Downey. You know, I don't have to commute to work wherever, right? Like, in LA. You know, like even to get to you know, here in Burbank, that took me 42 minutes, you know, at 9 a.m. Right. So it just depends where you're going, but you get to the IE real quick. You get to downtown LA real quick. You get to a lot of different places real fast. So it's a nice place to live. The community, the demographics have definitely shifted a little bit, where it's becoming a little bit more, you know, and this is a thing that's going on all over Los Angeles County, where you have a shift in demographics. You know, the population is changing as far as like who lives in there. There used to be a lot of like old white people in Downey, and now it's very Latino like me, which is cool, you know, but it's very diverse community. You know, it's just a very diverse community. Now, one thing that's really interesting about Downey is that now you're starting to see a little bit of influx of like transients, like on the streets, like, but that's like everyone in Los Angeles County, you know. So that and the riverbeds and all that, they're like a super highway for transients and all that. But so we have two that surround Downey, and
Yeah. So you got to deal with a little bit of that, but Downey does a pretty good job of keeping that under control.
You're like a representative. Every time I talk to you, you're like Downey. You're proud, you know?
Totally.
You're proud. You're
totally
like, I'm from Downey. My gym's in Downey.
Yeah.
Tell me about Downey.
Yeah, it's funny, right? No, and I guess, you know, I used to be involved with I was actually the vice president at a certain point for the Downey Museum of Art, which is now defunct art museum, you know, that had to liquidate all its art and kind of break down that 501c3. But yeah, so I've been involved. I wanted to, I want to be more involved in the community, but it's just a thing of time and where my priorities are going to be. But yeah. And people tell me, oh yeah, you got to run for city council or mayor or something like that. I'm like, God, that would just destroy my life. I'm like, don't put that evil on me. And what's funny is I had a couple years back, I had 2 city council members approach me and try to get me to make a run for the city. But I was like, the timing wasn't right. And I'm glad I didn't, because the thing, if you want to be if you want to serve your community, you got to be ready. You got to be available, and you got to be in that state. And my life needed to be more together, you know.
Man, during COVID, you know, and the lockdowns and everything, I thought about doing something like that.
Really?
You know, going for like city council, just because of the situation we were in. Yeah. And I wanted to feel like I was involved, and I was, you know, involved with the community. I wanted to be, you know, stay ahead, right?
And you want to influence change.
Yeah. Be a part of that, you know?
Yeah. Well, you're
help my community. Yeah. Help my community.
Yeah. And that's one of the things. You're a stakeholder, and you're a community leader right now.
Yeah.
And you're as much a community leader or more than Barack Obama was before he ran for president as a community leader. Think about that.
Yeah. You know, we're all about making a difference, right?
In the community, what we're about.
And just I want it to be more involved, you know, and have a part of that.
If I ever run for anything, they're going to use that against me. Alberto Crane is more community leader than Barack Obama. That's going to be at the top of everything, you know.
Things are changing, man, right? Things are shifting, you know, at the world and technologies, and you talked about crypto, blockchain.
Totally.
And it's going to be interesting to see what happens. With all the government stuff, even the way the government works, right?
Totally. I mean, and do you still have ambitions to run for city council or to?
You know, I'm so involved with so many things that, you know, jiu-jitsu for me, it's always in my heart, and I want to stay connected. You know, I'm very careful and really try to watch out for things that are going to take me away from that, you know? So I don't know. I used to talk about timing. So when the time is right, possibly, you know, I'm not going to, you know, be against it. Like my grandfather, my mom's dad was heavily into politics for his, you know, his whole life. So definitely, you know, I feel like it's in me a bit, you know, to go in that direction. But the timing has to be right. And, you know, and during the COVID, and I hadn't thought about it like that until like the lockdowns and things. And I was like, man, I want to fight. I want to try to make, you know, take action.
You know, what's interesting,
be a part of the decision making.
If you had a coach, what would they tell you? If you had because you know how you had to have a jiu-jitsu coach to tell you, no, sign up. You have to sign up. You have to get ready. You know, sometimes we get comfortable, and the time's never really right.
Right.
You know, so you just go like, all right, well, if I had kind of stepped outside of myself, what would I do? You know, or what would I be kind of forced to do because somebody else sees things? So that's kind of in that same vein. I try to, I lean on people to check me. You know, or they go like, all right, I know time's not right for this, because time's not ever right for expanding your business, growing your family, pursuing that extra thing. It's never perfect, right? So right now, that's kind of one of those things where I'm trying to, you know, wrap my head around trying to do more, because one of the things that I realized last year, and it was like one of those New Year things, right? Like most people kind of at the end of the year, they reflect on, you know, how they did, right? So at the end of 2021, I reflected and I go like, okay, well, I expanded the gym. We have, you know, all these great things going on, but I left a lot on the table. And I was like, oh, that was so gut wrenching. That hurt so much. Where I was just like, I could have done more. I could have spent more time with family, but I was like distracted on my cell phone. I could have raced more mountain bike races. I could have, jiu-jitsu competition wasn't at the high of my priority. It was more like growing my school, but I could always do more.
How did you get into competing? What was that process, jiu-jitsu competition?
It was just a natural progression from the Pan Creation tournaments that I was doing in like 2007, where it's just like, okay, well, I'm doing fairly well on that, but the times that I would lose, it would be because I got like triangled. And it was always, the triangle was my arch nemesis. It's just, people would just catch me. I had bad posture and I had to get caught all these times. And then I was like, I should really specialize in jiu-jitsu, right? To close that little part that I was lacking, you know? So that became just a natural progression from there. And then I got really into that, you know, where it's just like, now that takes over, you know, and that becomes more worthwhile because you're specializing. Although I did still, you know, train in mixed martial arts and all that, but yeah, jiu-jitsu is just a way to refine a lot more, you know. And funny enough to say, I was always getting triangled. That's like the thing I like watch out for most now, because it's just like,
you're a specialist at not getting in a triangle now.
And not that I'm great at getting out. I'm always the guy like, oh, if you got in the triangle, you messed up already, you know. So not getting put in the triangle, but it happens. It happens, you know.
If you don't train, if you don't compete, like, you will never get in anything, right?
You never get in it, and that's like, do it. That's the thing, you know. And that's why I'm like, I'm talking to myself about right now, the next evolution for me, the next 10-year cycle is kind of beginning right now, even though it started a couple of years ago. And that a couple of years ago, I blew out my knee. Oh, no, I had a bad meniscus tear, right? That completely like shut me out. I couldn't train jiu-jitsu. And the very next day after that happened, I signed up for a software development boot camp, and I started learning how to code, I started going out down this like this rabbit hole, right? And my brothers though told me you should get into development. There's you know, very, very good opportunities in that. And then I spent a couple months really going down that path, and spent like 15 grand over 3 months in this like boot camp. Wow. That was like, so I was like all in, let me go and do this. And but then I was getting to the point where I was just like, I was a brown belt at the time, 2017. And I was like, am I quitting jiu-jitsu? You know? And then I was like, wait, I'm not quitting jiu-jitsu. It's just that, you know, I have pressure to do other things to kind of make sense of my life and what direction I was going to go in. And then at that point, you know, I just realized, no, I got to find a different way, because if I just pursue like the corporate route, like I'm just going to be a cog in some corporate machine as a developer, which is all cool. That's what you want to do. Yeah. It just, for me, I couldn't do it. That was like, it was going to defeat my soul. Yeah. You know, and I was
working
like,
a 9 to 5,
working a 9 to 5. Like, I'm a creative person. Yeah, exactly. You know, even if you could work from home, it's still like, you're building stuff for other people instead of building stuff for yourself, you know? So I was way more from a creative perspective. I was like, I want to learn this, and this is really interesting. So I started doing freelance work. I started doing more web design at that point. So I was like, I built like a website for a newspaper, for real estate offices. And then I started doing all these other things that were all self-taught. Like people were like, oh, you're like a computer guy, right? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I guess I am, you know? So like people like give me jobs, like, and I would build things, you know, I would just research documentation, watch YouTube videos, figure it all out, you know, so I'll do all this. I could teach myself anything, you know, so I was just like, okay, I'll start that. But at that point started opportunity presented itself. That's where we opened up Academy. And now, you know, a couple of years down the road from that,
you do the IT or web things and technology things as well.
Yes,
on the side.
Yeah. So not so much of that lately. I was trying to kind of moonlight with all of that as well. But right now, I'm now in the state of trying to relaunch that aspect of my life. So right now on the way here, every single day, I'm researching metaverse podcasts and listening to a lot of stuff to just try to be a part of this as a creator, this next chapter of my life, you know, so that right now, starting again as like a white belt that started, you know, that stopped, but started 5 years ago. Yeah. You know, where I could use this in the future and be part of something early on as a creator, not like a capitalist where someone just like is trying to time a trend, right? But somebody that's a part of the future, you know? So it's really, that's really the next thing. And that's one thing I really hold dear as far as myself as a principal. I want to be a creator. There's like two people, right? In everything. There's the consumer and the producer. You know, like you're producing. You know, how many podcasts do you listen to a day? Probably not nearly as much as, you know, you're creating right now. You know, so that's like the whole thing that I try to realize, you know, like, I always try to reflect, and I consume, you know, I watch movies with my kids or I do some stuff like that, but I want to produce. I want to be more 60-40, 60% produce, 40% consume. You know, and it's just like Elon Musk, how much does he produce? How much do you think he consumes? Probably very little, you know, at this part. So I'm really into that right now. Produce. But right now I'm in the learning stages of things and need to get back into programming as well so that I could be a part of these communities to actually create the future.
What kind of metaverse things are you? You mentioned crypto. You mentioned
So right now it's really about identifying first, like because a lot of people say metaverse, and it's a term that's been hijacked by Facebook, where you go where you go like okay, well, is this just a community around the walled garden that Facebook is creating? But first you have to kind of like identify what it's not. That's what I realized. So the thing that is most helpful is to realizing what it's not, and it's not an experience built around any one piece of hardware or technology. So it's more the way I'm understanding it, and there's a lot of different interpretations of this or kind of ways people express this. But the way I'm understanding it so far right now is that it's all about a 3D experience. It's a internet. It's just a user generated 3D experience, basically, like what the kids are using right now on Roblox and
the Matrix.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So
have you seen Ready Player One?
No, I haven't.
You haven't?
No, I haven't.
The Steven Spielberg.
That's an older movie, right?
It's not that old. You know, it's the last, like, I think, I'm not sure. Don't quote me on it. 5-6 years.
Oh, okay. Okay. I got to check that out. Yeah. So,
but basically people spend more time in the, if you want to call it metaverse than in real time.
Well, it's happening to some people already. So there's like
I mean, like, we're on our phones, we're in these, you know, these situations, right? Where that's not.
We're definitely connected. So it's like the other day I was, I raced with somebody, I raced mountain bikes and one of the guys I was racing against, he's like, man, I haven't seen you in a year and I know everything that's going on with your life. Like, it's so crazy, you know, so we're connected, we're cyborgs, you know, we're we're right now, our phone's an extension of our brain where we don't have to remember anything, and all of the road's information is available. Just the bandwidth is low right now, so that we have to text it in or speech to text. So it's kind of at a, you know, it's still low bandwidth right now, but we're completely, you know.
Starlink is coming. Elon Musk
with the Neuralink, right? Yeah,
not even that. Yeah, that too, right? But just even like all the satellites in space, right? To make things in real time. So there's no lag.
Yeah, so the latency is going to go away. The user experience is going to get better for all this stuff that's going on right now. So it's a really interesting time. And one thing that I think is really important is to not get left behind, because you're just going to be, by the time everybody starts talking about something, and right now there's like a real hype wagon around like metaverse, and there's going to be a dip. Everyone's going to be like, all right, every 10 years people talk about virtual worlds and VR, everything goes up really high, and then everything goes down.
Like it or not, right? That's where the world is going, you know, with all just the technology, and it's like, you know, infinite, right? Like things were like to a certain speed, but now just the growth is exponential, right?
Right.
Every year. And we don't even see the stuff that's actually happening, you know, like AI and all that, you know, with every aspect, right? There's a futuristic guy named George Gilder. Do you know who Ray Kurzweil is?
No.
He has that term singularity, where we merge with technology, basically.
Right.
And I really like how he's. I was like, you know, studying a lot of future stuff, you know, AI and all that, and kind of, you know, we're gonna have robots, you know, like people, right? And we're basically gonna die out, right? We're gonna create our own race, or whatever you want to call it, our own evolution, and that's kind of making me sad, you know. And then I found this guy, George Gildy. He's a future guy as well. And he has a book. He has a lot of books, but one of his latest books is called Life After Google: The End of Big Tech and the Emergence of Blockchain Economy. And I was like, okay, so like this blockchain technology, right, is the future, and everything's transparent, right? And, you know, banking and just all aspects, right? It's going to be very transparent, and yeah, we're gonna merge with technology, like it or not. You know, like totally. If you watch the new Matrix, even, have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen that.
You know, the old one, I wanted to see it because I wanted to see, you know, they were so far ahead, right? And
right.
Whenever the first ones came out, right?
Yeah.
Of just, you know, the 90s, right? Why are they saying the 90s? That was like, you know, and you go back into those times. But we're fighting the machines. And then in the new one, what happens? We're with the machines. We're connected. We're not fighting. We're part of it. And so in the George Gilder book, he's like, we're going to be a part. It's not going to be one or the other. We're going to merge with technology, basically. You know, we're going to be a part of it, and, you know, and always in some form of capacity. You know. And so I was like, okay, cool, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like, just, you know, happy that everything's gonna be okay. You know. In a way, you know, just because it's like, man, the end of like you know, of how we are, you know, just I don't know, the human race in a way, you know, the way the other guy was talking.
Right.
But things are gonna be different. I mean, look, like, you know, when they invented the light bulb, right? Like, you know, oh, it's the devil, you know, but things just change, and just it's either you, like Albert Einstein says, you either think like the universe is with you or it's against you, right?
Right. And it's all about, so right now, and that's one of the reasons why it's super important to get involved, I think, and help create the future and shape it, shape policy around how the responsibility of artificial intelligence and its uses and all that. Because if you don't set guidelines and parameters, things just go like your culture inside the gym. If you're not intentional about your culture, then you're just going to end up with a random culture, and you're going to be at that could be really detrimental. You're going to be at the mercy at whatever way gravity went, right? The path of least resistance. Rather, if you help shape the future, if you get involved in communities, you could, and you have to be a stakeholder first to be involved in these communities, to be part of the group of people that make those decisions, right? Even from any standpoint, it could be and that's one thing that's really interesting about all of this, is that it's all for the community.
Yeah, it's you know, like I don't know if you know Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Poor Dad guy.
Yes.
Okay, he has some new books too, but he you know, it's like, you know, the dollar or money, right? The fiat currency, it's the government money.
Totally.
You know, gold and silver, it's God's money.
Right.
And like crypto, you know, and these things is the people's money.
Yeah, it's, you know? The people's money. And so
this blockchain technology, you know, it's hard for me to wrap my head around exactly how, and I don't know, maybe we don't know, but you know, it's going to give us a lot of the powers back. You know, you can grow up in, you know, the Philippines or wherever, and you can, from one day to the next, Zimbabwe, you know, like lose all of your life savings, right? Just because of, you know,
some nationalized.
Yeah, who knows, crisis. You know, yeah. And so it kind of gives us some of the power back to the person, right? The you know, instead of being so reliant on, you know, government and just these other things, you know. So I think things are going to be going that way just because of the nature of the blockchain technology. I'm not like I said, you know, I'm trying to wrap my head around it, but
Same here.
I'm trying to always stay connected, and I'm really into crypto and just staying ahead. You know, I mean, like 80% of the money that's been printed has been printed in the last 2 years. Yeah,
that's right.
80%.
So crazy.
You know, from, you know, a couple trillion to like 20 trillion. Like, how does that make sense? Is the US dollar going to stay the reserve currency for the world? I don't know, you know, but something is shifting and something is changing, and you can blame it on the pandemic, or you can, I don't know, you can take action, right? And do something about it.
Right. No. So, and that's one of the things, right? Because there's so many things that you can't even imagine or anticipate right now, as far as use cases for blockchain and all of that, even taking like NFTs, right? So when you think about that all it is just giving ownership to, you know, digital assets, you know. So one way that I heard someone put it recently is blockchain is just financializing the internet, right? So it establishes ownership. So that's what it's doing, right? So now whatever you create, there's going to be different ways of actually, like with NFTs, like people could actually make money. There's going to be there's going to be some money to be made every time an NFT is transferred. And whatever the use case for that, they say like 80% of the NFTs on OpenSea are a scam or a spam, and only 20% are around like actual projects and people that are trying to do something meaningful. So that just goes to show, I mean, and who knows where it's going to be in the future. There's the different NFT marketplaces. I actually heard that a very who just created there's different organizations right now, different corporations creating their own NFT marketplaces right now. Right.
Who knows, you know? Are you going to buy some land in the metaverse?
Nah.
You're going to buy a house? You're going to plant a tree and then donate.
So that's very interesting, right? Because
buy a river,
it seems so silly, but so many things in hindsight that people thought were silly.
Yeah.
Were silly are now like so practical.
Yeah. Who knows, right? Who knows?
So,
but you stay open, right? And try to stay ahead.
Keep educating yourself. That's the whole thing. Like you, and I think my whole approach is to stay with that white belt mindset, or like kind of like how Joey Diaz says, like, you don't know nothing.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't know anything. You know, you're just a blank canvas and your cup's empty.
We don't know anything. That's the reality, right? That's the reality.
So, and you don't know what you don't know. So right now I'm totally, and so the other thing is too, right? Like, you know how easy jiu-jitsu would have been if you would have known what questions to ask. You realize being a genius is actually just realizing, because you have Google, you have the ultimate search engine, right? So in order to be a genius, you just need to know what questions to ask to answer your question. And then that goes like, oh man, and that's the only way. So right now I'm researching and I'm just exploring all this content, whether on YouTube or like I said, podcasts and whatever, and completely shots in the dark, because nobody's telling me. I don't know who do I ask.
I have a couple metaverse podcasts with Ben Stream. He's one of our brown belts.
Oh, okay.
And he's dialed in, 24/7.
Man, I gotta lean on that guy for a resource, because I'm.
They have some Discord groups and stuff that you can get in on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's awesome, because that's one of the things. It's just like, how do you even like?
There's some real jiu-jitsu guys in there too.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah.
And so that's like a thing. So I sound like a crazy person at my gym, because I'm like talking about all this stuff to
their Discord group is Apollo. Yeah.
Apollo. Okay.
Apollo. Yeah.
I'll get on that.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to people about it, and they just look at me like I'm some like crazy person, because I'm like, yeah, there's something here. But it's like when I first started talking to people about jiu-jitsu, they're like, what? Yeah. Like, how's this gonna blow up? How's this a thing, right? Yeah. But like, it's just like anything. Like, if you see something that's worthy and meaningful to you, that means it's worthy and meaningful to somebody else.
Yeah.
So there's once that starts like multiplying itself, then by the time everybody starts talking about it, it's too late. It's too late. Well, not too late, but the opportunity for exponential growth is already far behind. So by being early, and there's always these opportunities, right? But it's like, if you don't think yellow car, you don't see yellow car. Right. So you have to think opportunity.
I think just because I've been through like a lot of different cycles and stuff with jiu-jitsu and everything, and you always if you're in the beginning, you play a part. But like one of the things that martial arts, maybe if you agree with this, but it gives you like a certain discipline and like discipline, way of life, and if you apply that to anything, even if you're late in the thing, like you overtake people,
totally.
Just the exponential growth of whatever you do is gonna pay dividends.
Well, and that comes from discipline. So it's like that,
right? And that you get that directly from the mat, right?
Totally, because that idea of you show up even when you don't want to show up.
It starts from the heart, like the passion, and People are telling you, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, no, like
how many people have told you that?
So much. And that was like so much of the problem.
Your parents probably.
My parents were like, why are you training this so much? You're never going to make money from this. And this isn't like a thing. As far as my mom is concerned, I train karate every day. Right. And that's really humbling. And it's really good because, and I was really fortunate to have like a super hard ass as a mom where she's just like, she'd say things like, you know what your brother's problem is? He thinks he's special. Nobody's special. And I'm like, damn, that's awesome, Mom. That's fire. I'm like, that's badass, right? You're not special. You could do special things, you know? You might be special to your mom. Obviously, when my mom doesn't even think I'm special, like that's powerful because she's like, you're not special, you know? And then you reframe that around. Obviously, she loves me, right? Or like, me and my siblings. But you got to do special things to really be special. If you're just walking down the street, you know, Alberto, you know, for somebody else, for everybody else, you're just some guy, right? But it's when you do special things. It's when you impact your community. It's when you create things for our society to really benefit.
Be better, yeah.
You know, so, and that's at the idea of what, you know, I feel like at least that makes life worthwhile and that makes it meaningful because, you know, here today, gone tomorrow, you know, you could completely get wiped out, but if you left this place better than you found it, you know, you're a winner, you know? So, and you got thought of that at least till people forget.
So you've been doing jiu-jitsu for over 15 years?
It'll be 15 years in August.
Okay. So you remember exactly when you started and everything. So why didn't you stop training jiu-jitsu? You have your parents, what are you doing? You know,
that's a really good question. So, I just felt like I'd be, when I was at that crossroads, when I was studying software development, and I even remember I was in this boot camp studying software development. I wanted to go compete at IBJJF Mexico City, and I talked to my mentor and the founder of the boot camp where I was studying, and I'm like, yeah, I want to go compete, and he's like, no, you're not. You need to be looking for a job, and I was like, damn. I was like, okay. And I was like, wait a second. Like, this is putting other people in control of my life. I don't ever want to be here. I don't want to ever be in a position where somebody else is telling me yes or no. That should all be based on how I hold my priorities. Right. And if I would have pursued working for a corporation, it would have just been exactly that, because you're just a cog. And one thing that, later started coming together was I realized, and I think it was, I heard that it was Andrew Carnegie that said, leadership is a commodity. So even at the top of a company, right? Say even you rise up to the ranks, like rise up through the ranks and get to the top. You're a CEO of a company. Andrew Carnegie said, leadership is a commodity. I could buy and sell that. Same how you could buy and sell oranges, bananas, and coffee beans. So that's crazy because you tend to think you're special. Everyone wants to think they're special. Again, coming back to that, right? Like, even if I got hired as a CEO, I would still be accountable to the shareholders and board directors and all that, right? So it's just a crazy thing where I was like, nah, I'm gonna punch my own ticket.
You're the gym owner, right? But if there's a clogged up toilet,
you're the janitor too. So that's on the flip side of that, right? So definitely that's the thing. People don't realize how much gym owners and black belt instructors, how much cleaning they do. You know, I definitely try to delegate. Me and my business partner, I try to delegate so much because I was fed up like a year ago. I was fed up. I was like, dude, I'm cleaning more than I'm teaching sometimes. That's crazy. You know, I was like, this has got to change, but you just got to identify the problem.
What some people like to do that, like it's like therapy, right? So it depends what you want to do.
So I clean the mats. I clean the mats. But when it comes to other things, it just I just want to always try to stick to my core competency. You know, so I'm not the best toilet cleaner, you know, so it's kind of like whatever the thing is, you know, and that's an opportunity for someone else. At the end of the day, if I'm doing that, that means I'm taking away hours from somebody else, you know, so someone's got to do it, you know, and whatever the case is, not that I can't do it. I won't do that at this, but when we were in our first gym, the spot was only 1,250 square feet. I said, this is not scalable because my whole goal was to do more square footage. And I said, if this is already a lot, I can't scale. So my whole thing was scalability in my time as resource, like even for myself. And I don't know, everyone's going to feel different about this, but for instance, I don't do private lessons because it's not scalable, because I can't distribute all of my energy the way I'd like to across my students. So I don't, and my family, because then it becomes very proportional. As I become more successful and busier, then that private lesson time, the value of it completely changes. And at any given point, like I'm not being, it's not proportional to what I negotiated early on, right? So I go like, first and foremost, I'll give a private lesson to my daughter or my wife or something like that, right? Where like they should first, everyone should get my private time after the people I have in priority first, So it just, but that's not necessarily how it should be. It's just the way I do things because I needed that kind of structure. And then it became that as well, where I need to, if I needed a private lesson in something, I should have that time available before anyone else is willing to pay for it, because I go, and that's another principle based thing. I think it might've been from Rich Dad Poor Dad, where I don't rent my time. I want to have equity stake in whatever I'm doing. Anything I'm doing has to be completely based off how am I going to completely, even if I'm cleaning toilets as like at a coffee stand, or like a coffee shop or whatever, right? Like I would rather clean toilets in something where I had equity stake than to be paid $200 an hour in something where I'm just renting my time, because that doesn't scale. That doesn't scale to something that's going to benefit me in the future. Rather, the coffee shop, I do the startup, the sweat equity at the front end, and then it's able to then carry on itself and be self-sustaining, hopefully, right? If you actually have a good business going. But so everything I do it in that same manner. So my time, everything, my investment, my family, all that, it's just set up in that way.
What do you love about teaching?
Teaching's just helping people at the end of the day. And I'm sure like most 99% of the instructors, they do it because they love helping people rather than trying to make money. If you're a creative, intellectual person, you would have been successful, whether it was jiu-jitsu, marketing, fill in the blank, right? So, as a capable person, you're oftentimes taking a little bit of a pay cut if you're actually going and helping people in these kind of ways, right? Teaching, right? Because you're so much more, and in other businesses, you could be crushing it in tons of different regards,
investment
right?
banking.
You could just, oh my gosh, if you decided to go Wall Street or something like that, rather than being a jiu-jitsu teacher in pajamas, you'd be in a different position. So helping people, first and foremost, is at the forefront of everything. And that's why, I'm supposed to only be scheduled for 5 classes a week at my school, but I'm there all the time. And that's because I'm always just trying to distribute that. I'm always just trying to distribute my time to help people in whatever way possible. So I could be the most, so that could be the most scalable, right? So like, so that I could spread it around however way is appropriate and impact people's lives. Like I've had people recently, Alberto, like I've had people in my gym, like break down and cry, where they have different things going on in their life and tell me like, this is all they have, like, and they're afraid they're gonna, mess this up, something. And it's just so heavy and it's so real. And it's like, man, like I'm not just teaching martial arts here. I'm helping someone get through a difficult time in their life. I'm helping them socialize because nobody at work knows them, feels them, understands them, because their spouse is shutting them out, because maybe they're with kids. And you've seen this too, where like kids that come from all sorts of difficult situations at home, like there's different people have different reasons why they come into the academy. And my goal is to impact people, help people, create a catalyst for them, not just to succeed at jiu-jitsu, and this is where, like, I don't know if I ever overstep boundaries and all that, because I try to get people excited.
It's hard, right?
Yeah.
That line is fine.
Yeah. And I don't want to, the last thing I want to be is a guru. I'm not a guru. And I tell people straight up, I hate cults, and I hate that, like, I hate that sometimes jiu-jitsu is like a cult, you know? So I'm not a guru. I'm an idiot. You know, I'm just like, I just seen some things that might be helpful if I express them to you so that it could help your life, you know? So that's like, I want to help people from a very humbled perspective of, like, you know, I'm just a jiu-jitsu guy. I'm just a guy that got really good at jiu-jitsu and now in a place to influence your life positively. That's it. You know, and I'm not special, and you can accomplish way more than me because you're like, you now have people around you that believe in you, that really want to help you. Like the other day, somebody told me crying, like, I just wanted to tell you thank you because the other day you told me you believe in me. And I sincerely, I wasn't just saying that. Like, I wish people could see in themselves what I see in them, because I've been there. I've been the guy where it's just like, I really needed a coach to believe in me, because I wouldn't sign up for tournaments on my own. I needed a coach to be like, hey, you're signing up. That's why I tell you, like, with running for city council, sometimes we need people to be like, hey, no, you're doing this. Because sometimes we typically choose the path of least resistance. You know, and if there's a little bit of friction,
staying out of the comfort zone, staying in the comfort zone,
you know, so that's why that's the thing that on my deathbed, I'll remember the most. It's just the people I impacted, the kids who I helped succeed later in a different aspect of their life and all that. So that's the part that, if you separate everything else, you know, cause here today, gone tomorrow, like whatever you have, whatever you establish could be gone. Like gyms blow up, and the people, like, I'm always saying, like, yeah, the gym could burn down tomorrow, you know, and I'll rebuild after, especially after COVID being such a new school during COVID and all that. I was always like, well, now I'm always thinking about, like, oh yeah, this could be gone tomorrow. I'm not at all on like, oh yeah, this is going to stick around. No. This could be gone, and that's okay. And the day we opened up our new location, I told some of my members, I actually did a little like speech, and I told the guys, like, if COVID 3.0 or something happened today, or whatever the case, World War III or whatever debacle happened, we will rebuild in a school 1/16 the size of the space. It could be half the size of this room, and we'll get back here and bigger and better. And some of you will be around with us, and those of you that won't, totally understand, not a big deal. You do whatever is best for you, you know, but kind of in the same way we were talking earlier, and when you started this, you're saying that you took some guys to compete, right? And you do what you do. So it's kind of like the thing of beavers will always build dams. You will always develop people. You know, that's what we do. You know, we will always develop people. So whether in jiu-jitsu, whether in tech, whether in leadership, whatever the case may be, as beavers, we'll develop dams, we'll develop people, we'll help people, and the thing will just snowball from there. This is just the current, at my academy teaching, it's just the current iteration of how I'm doing that. You know, but in the future, it may be some other way, you know, so it's just at the end of the day, it's a long-winded way of expressing why I love teaching or why I like teaching. It's to help people, you know, to help people so that they could help other people.
That's it. Well, thank you, man. Thank you for all that you do. How can people find you?
Okay. Yeah. So, I'm on Instagram at Hector O Beltran. So that's pretty much it. Or you could check out our academy, academyjj.com. And that's pretty much it. Yeah. Just come on by, swing by, train with us, say what's up. Thank you, Alberto.
Man, it's been great getting to know you. It was a big pleasure last week when you came by to the gym and taught. Man, it's great talking to you and just hearing about what you're about, and look forward to seeing you grow and helping other people grow.
Thank you so much, Alberto.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, man.